Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're taking a deep dive into some, well, truly thought-provoking material. Our sources for this exploration, they stem from a really fascinating lecture by Venerable Master Benny from the Australian Buddhist Practice Incorporated. And specifically, it's a discussion around the book Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. It's quite an incredible blend, Western spiritual dialogue meeting Eastern philosophical understanding, a bit of a shortcut, maybe, to getting well-informed on some profound universal truths.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how these two uh, seemingly distinct perspectives, how they converge on some surprisingly similar insights. Our mission today really is to extract the core wisdom from these conversations, particularly how they connect these, well, seemingly disparate ideas about the nature of self, the path to success, and what love truly means. It's about getting to the essence of what really makes things happen in your life and, how you can apply that knowledge.
That's our mission then. So let's jump right in. There's a fundamental concept here that really challenges our everyday thinking. Most of us, right, we operate with have-do-be mindset. We believe that if we have something, it could be money, free time, even a loving relationship, then we can do something specific, like write that book we've been meaning to, or travel the world, or, finally find love. And only then, after the having and the doing, will we finally be in that state we want, happy, peaceful, fulfilled. It feels so intuitive, doesn't it? It's just how we usually approach things.
It absolutely is. It feels like the logical sequence. But the universal truth, as it's illuminated in these sources, reveals that this model is, well, it's actually inverted. The universe's true creative process, the one that actually yields lasting results, is be, do, have. So first, you have to be in a particular state, maybe joyful, maybe enlightened, compassionate, whatever it is. Only then do you act from that state, letting your actions just naturally flow from your core essence. And then, and really only then, do you receive what you desire to have. It's about reversing the order, aligning with how the universe actually creates.
I really like the analogy the source uses for this. It emphasizes starting from the root. Like imagine you want leaves on a tree. You don't chase after individual leaves, do you? No, you nurture the root, you tend to the soil, the conditions, and then the leaves they appear naturally in abundance. This is the essence, right? Starting from the state of being, not the external thing you want, focusing on what you cultivate inside.
Exactly. And the source is quite explicit about what that root state entails. It talks about enlightenment, wisdom, compassion. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's really about aligning yourself with the fundamental creative energy of the universe. Not chasing the external stuff, the houses, the cars, the partner. Those are the leaves, you could say, the fruit. Your internal state, your consciousness. That's the root. That's where the real work happens.
Yeah. Okay, so if be do have is the universal creative process, how does that actually manifest in our lives? The sources point to several key principles that really underpin this model. Let's start with one most people have heard of, the law of karma, cause and effect. The source highlights a very practical kind of Western way of putting it. If you want wisdom, or you want to be intelligent, well, the most effective path is actually to help others become intelligent. What you give, you receive. It's presented as a direct, almost undeniable correlation.
Right. And building on that, the sources introduce this core concept, our self-nature, or Tutan. For listeners who might know similar ideas, you could think of like our inherent Buddha nature, or our true essence. It's not something you have to develop or achieve. It's described as this ever-present inner reality, like clear sky, always behind the clouds. It isn't commanding us or guiding us like a boss, but it's just there. It's the foundation for all our experiences, all our choices. And this brings up a really important question, doesn't it? If happiness is always there, within this self-nature, why are we constantly seeking it externally?
Yeah, why the chase?
Exactly. The source points out that chasing external things, money, houses, cars, it inevitably leads to this perpetual discontent. Because true happiness is inherent. It's not something you acquire from outside.
That's a powerful distinction. So, true happiness isn't a place you get to. It's a state you choose to operate from. And that brings us to another really fascinating dimension they explore. Mind is the root, or Tamlamgok. This is where intention really comes into the picture. The sources emphasize that two people can do the exact same action, but the intention behind it completely determines the outcome, the karmic result. So if you do something to benefit others, and it comes from a Bodhi mind,
which is that deep, selfless wish for all beings to reach enlightenment, right? Rooted in huge compassion.
Exactly. That's the path of a bodhisattva, this kind of spiritual warrior for universal well-being. But doing that same action from a place of calculation or maybe ill will, that leads to negative consequences. regardless of how good it looks on the surface. The lecture really brings this to life with some examples from the disciple's own experience, like the disciple wanting fame and respect. Instead of just flattering people, the focus shifted. It became about doing excellent work, precise work, diligent work, and crucially, knowing why it was being done out of a genuine desire to contribute something valuable. And what happened? Recognition, promotion. It came naturally, without having to chase it directly. It's about embodying that state of excellence first.
Yeah, and that example of the new surgeon is even more illustrative of the Bidhu have in action. Okay, so he had less experience, but his attitude was serious. His focus was purely on the patient. Meticulous care, down to requesting clean towels for every single stitch to prevent infection, really putting himself in the patient's shoes. And the result? A perfect surgery. It took longer, sure, but the outcome was flawless. This just perfectly shows being in a state meticulous, caring, which then leads to the positive doing, the precise surgery, and then having success, the patient's well-being, the perfect outcome. His character, his attitude in that moment totally dictated the future success.
Okay, so we've looked at how our internal state drives the outer world and the huge power of intention. But there's one concept that seems to underpin all of this, a force described as the ultimate creative energy, love. And the sources offer a really profound, maybe even an unexpected definition of what true love is. The initial idea shared is pretty simple. Love is giving joy to others. And here's a test they propose for true love. Do you desire for others to have something? Or just for yourself? If it's only for yourself, the source suggests, well, that's not really true love.
Right, and this is where it gets truly radical, I think. The source, echoing conversations with God, doesn't just say love is unconditional. It completely reframes the act of giving. It explicitly states, many people think love is giving without receiving. Actually, everything you do is for you because you and everyone are one.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's not presented as selfish. It's a profound recognition of our fundamental interconnectedness. When you give joy or wealth or anything to others, you're not just helping someone separate from you. You're nurturing the very fabric of existence, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that energy, that good, it naturally flows right back to you. I mean, imagine the freedom that unlocks in how you approach every interaction, every act of generosity, if you really grasp that.
That is a genuinely mind-bending concept. Giving to others is giving to yourself because ultimately we're all interconnected, all one. And love's implications, they go even broader in these texts. It's described as the ultimate form of communication, something that leads to smooth interactions. If communication feels difficult or blocked, it suggests love isn't fully expressed in that moment. Now, in stark contrast, fear is presented as the absolute opposite of love. It's seen as a human construct, something that obscures our true identity. And the source reminds us, children are born without fear. It's something taught to them, usually by adults as they grow up.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture again, the idea is that human nature is love, intrinsically. Life's purpose, then, is this continuous process of deciding, declaring, creating, experiencing, and expressing your true self, which is that loving essence. Choosing love means actively creating and attracting more of what you choose into your reality. If you choose to give love, you effectively create more of it, both within and around you, and draw back to yourself. It's a creative act.
And this leads us to a really crucial pivot point in the lecture. It's where the master challenges the disciple directly. Okay, you understand all this intellectually, but has the material, the actual essence of your being truly changed? This is where it gets really interesting, where the practical application hits home and challenges us beyond just theory.
Yeah, the master uses this incredibly vivid analogy from the source material, gold versus dog feces. Gold, right, even if it gets dirty, it always retains its intrinsic nature, its density, its shine, its value that doesn't change. Dog feces, on the other hand, no matter how perfectly you shape it to look like gold, upon any real inspection, its true nature is revealed instantly.
Right.
So true change, true transformation means your intrinsic material becomes good. Consistently, like gold, your essence actually becomes wisdom, compassion, enlightenment. Not just sometimes or on the surface, but fundamentally, that's the goal.
And this very point then fuels an intense debate within the source text, specifically about applying that definition of love. If true love is about making others happy, well, should you let a killer kill or a rapist rape if that act brings them some kind of temporary twisted joy? You can feel the disciple really struggling with this, realizing that kind of joy is based on a false view, a delusion. It doesn't bring true fundamental happiness or liberation.
It's a superficial joy tied to causing harm.
Exactly. And the master pushes the point. True love means acting to bring ultimate joy, real happiness, not superficial pleasure. Even if that action seems contradictory on the surface, like maybe intervening to prevent harm, the aim is true joy, not enabling delusion or suffering.
And this loops back powerfully to personal transformation. The source reveals some of the disciples' own past mistakes, acknowledging they stemmed from delusion and ignorance. And these mistakes led directly to self-destruction and loss in his life. It really highlights how our external circumstances are often direct reflections of our internal states and choices. If you sow seeds of discord, internally or externally, you inevitably reap separation and suffering.
It also serves as a potent cautionary tale, doesn't it? The lecture brings up figures like Jack Ma and Elon Musk, people who achieved incredible success. They achieved greatness, the source suggests, partly by loving their work, by being fully committed, passionate about their projects. That B state was aligned.
Right. The focus was there.
But as the source points out, when they perhaps began to love things they shouldn't, maybe fame, excessive wealth, ego, they experienced dramatic falls from grace, losing reputation, losing integrity, things that money just can't buy back.
A very public example of that principle.
Yeah, it illustrates how choosing what you truly love and the intention behind that love profoundly shapes your destiny, your outcomes. So what does all this mean for us, in our everyday lives?
Well, it strongly implies that the importance of actively seeing the good in other people, praising them sincerely, and trying to learn from everyone you encounter. That's paramount. This is presented as a clear path towards internal richness, towards expanding your own being. It stands in sharp contrast to focusing on others' flaws, which, as the master implies, only drags you down and diminishes your own internal state. It shrinks your world.
And this leads us beautifully, I think, to the profound power of giving, which is exemplified by this really powerful personal anecdote from the disciple. He describes being at a real low point, very little money, not much food. And he encounters this young, struggling couple at a bus stop. They look really down on their luck. And moved by this sudden, genuine compassion, he invites them home. He cooks for them, shares what little he has, and then gives them $20, which was apparently a significant sum for him at that time.
And the impact wasn't delayed. It was immediate and profound internally. For days afterwards, maybe even a week, the disciple reported he no longer felt his own situation was dire. He had this deep, visceral realization. I'm okay. Actually, I have enough.
Wow, just from that act.
Yes. This single experience subtly but fundamentally changed his soul, his outlook. And interestingly, his external circumstances subsequently began to improve, almost, you could say, miraculously. This is the core teaching right there in action. When you give what you desire, in his case, maybe security, abundance, you immediately experience possessing it within yourself. From a spiritual perspective, it's infinitely easier to build on what you already feel you have than to try and create something purely from a feeling of lack.
It's such a powerful reinforcement of the whole lesson, isn't it? Once you truly understand this secret, this dynamic, you just keep repeating the action, the giving. It's presented as far more effective than just dreaming or wishing for things to change. Giving from a pure heart, genuinely recognizing another's need and their inherent worthiness, that seems to be the key. It's the key to discovering you actually already possess what you need to give. It creates this inner abundance that then just naturally flows outward into your life.
It absolutely transforms your inner state first. And then, almost without effort, your external reality starts to mirror, to reflect that internal transformation. It has to.
So we've really taken quite a deep dive today, haven't we? We've seen how this be-do-have model, the incredible power of intention, this radical definition of love as unconditional giving that ultimately serves the self because we are all one, and the vital importance of that deep inner transformation, how all these threads weave together across these profound spiritual traditions.
And it leaves us with a final, quite provocative thought, directly from the source material for you to consider. If love truly means wanting others to have what they ultimately truly desire, and if self-harm, causing suffering to oneself or others, can't possibly be our deepest, truest desire, then why doesn't the divine or the universe or whatever you conceive that larger force to be? Why doesn't it intervene when we continue again and again to bring suffering upon ourselves through our choices?
Something to really reflect on. We encourage you to think about your own deepest desires and maybe consider how the act of being the change you wish to see and giving from that place of inner abundance, however small it might feel to start, how that might profoundly transform your own reality.